First rule of 80-20 is don't ask how your hair looks. Second rule of 80-20 is you do not ask how your hair looks. You find out on the final cut how your hair looks. That's it. That's all. Oh snap, I nailed it on the first take. Serjan can vouch. Oh my god, dudes, do I have a couple licks to share with you today. Now you might think, well of course he does, everybody does. This is the drums. What else do you have to bring to the table if it's not licks? Well, oh my gosh folks, these licks today are different, and let me tell you why. There are two licks that I didn't overtly steal from another drummer. They're actually licks that I transcribed for myself, things that I came up with in my own playing. And they're not things that I explicitly set out to, oh, let me play something hot. Let me play something that'll get the ladies and men on their feet. No, I tell you, they were licks that came about pretty organically as I was thinking in phrases, and which I then sort of transcribed and deconstructed. So they're licks that work really great over 6 or 12 note patterns, and you can put the emphasis of the beat in a couple different places, as I'll show you. So the first lick goes like this, and I'm going to show it to you first in 16ths. So 3 E and a 4 E and a. So of course that sticking is just left, right, right, left, right, right. But I've orchestrated it this way. So when you're thinking of that over 16ths, of course, you can do things like this. Right? Like 3, 4. But I don't find that super compelling. What I find more compelling is playing this over a triplet matrix, as if you're playing in 12/8 or 15/8. So if you imagine a matrix like 3 triplet, 4 triplet. So that's if you put the beat on the triplet pulse, like a 12/8 or a 15/8. 12/8 would be 4 dotted quarters to a bar, 15/8 would be 5 essentially dotted quarters to the bar. Another way to think of it is instead of 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 2 triplet, 4 triplet, you think of it in double time as sextuplets. So instead of you think of it as and over the top of that, you might be thinking about something like a New Orleans second line type of beat. So the bass beat for that would be like 3, 4. So if you wanted to play the lick as an even phrase of sextuplets, it would sound like this. 3, 4. But of course, what we're doing in both cases is introducing that 2 phrases of 3 and 1 phrase of 2, or 2 phrases of 6 and 1 phrase of 4 that I call hemiolizing. So instead of 2, 3, we play. So that's rhythmic context for lick number 1. Of course, there's also orchestration. And you guys know the drill. I've showed you a bunch of different things, but I gave you a relatively hip default orchestration with this. But you can also do things like This would be a hip one. So you can experiment, like, let's see if I can do it. The next lick that I play a lot over both sextuplet and double-ized triplets, which are the two contexts I showed you. So just to review, sextuplets would be if you're in a double time feel, like 3, 4. And double-ized triplets or subdivided triplets would be if you were in a single time or half time feel, depending on where your default beat was for the double time. So it's not half versus double, it's single versus double, or single versus half, but it's half the beat rate of the double time, if you get my drift. So instead of 3, 4, it's 3, 4. And of course, those rates, when you get down to it, are identical. They're mathematically identical. And when you hear really good drummers like Mason Guidry or Devin Taylor, they're very often switching conceptually between a sextuplet and a subdivided triplet in their head. So they might switch from mentally double subdividing a bar and thinking as a swung eighth New Orleans sort of thing to single subdividing the bar and thinking like a fast jazz waltz. And if you're interested more in this concept of subdivided triplets and how you can substitute those in for sextuplets, I'll link to a lesson below that I did about a year ago where I talk more about that. But it's an important concept, and I don't want you to have to go all the way back to that video and watch the entire thing just to get it, so I'm kind of outlining it for you here. So the next lick that I like to do is 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And there are variations with that. But again, when you're thinking in subdivided triplets, 3, 2, 3, 4. That's just one way you can employ it. If we go back to the context of double time and sextuplets, it's 3, 4. Okay, so now that you've got an idea of both of those, and they'll be transcribed for you, you can click below to download the transcription. I want to practice an improvisation where I'm interchanging between the two of them. And this is something that's really important for getting the concepts. So let's go with this double time triplet context around this tempo, and I'm going to improvise, but I'm also going to include these licks, if that makes sense. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And so that's one possibility. Let me do one more for you. 3, 4. Etc. So those are two examples for how you might employ those licks in a solo. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. I know it got a little bit conceptual, but a lot of times I think it's important to break down for you real-world scenarios in which you might use these things. And if it seems overwhelming to you, you can feel free to just take one interpretation of the rhythm and play it where you're comfortable, and maybe even develop other things around it. Another thing that's been super cool and flattering is when you guys play these on Instagram and come up with your own variations and then tag me at 8020drummer in whatever you come up with. I'm always super flattered and happy to see those. So dudes, this concludes the lesson. Now I want to talk to you a little bit about what you can do if you want to go a little bit deeper. So if you've been checking out the channel for a little while, if you feel like maybe you understand my approach and you like it enough to study with me, I recommend my flagship product, the 8020 coaching course, which is like 6 to 12 months of studying with me for around the price of a lesson or two, depending on the teacher you'd be studying with. And we only open that up a couple times a year. It's kind of a special event. It's got a limited enrollment. But if you want to get on the wait list for it and you'd like a completely free gateway drug that introduces you more to what my more organized paid instruction looks like, I recommend you click on the link directly below the player, download my 3 videos in 3 weeks, 3 free videos that'll make you better in the next 3 weeks than you've gotten in the last 6 months. And then once you check those out, you'll be primed and ready to trust me for all your drum educational needs. I'm getting in your mental. Okay, dudes, it's been real. See you again real soon for another lesson of the week. Peace.